Oh. 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 Arurukshor munir yogam. A muni, one who reflects. They're practicing yoga by directing their mind. Shared more simply, they know there is more to living than food and fun. There's more than desiring pleasure and possessions. For all of you who are registered with Prithvi Seva Sangha, yesterday you received prasada in the form of guidance towards your CPE. CPE, continuing professional evolution, where you live less for food and fun and more for our environment. Less chemicals, less comfort, more plants, more productive. Be environmental. I was reflecting on the word bhu, which means earth. I think that's where the casual word boo came, like you're my boo. Someone you care for, someone you love. We should make boo our boo. Karma karanam uchyate. How does one direct their mind? Through karma, but a dedicated karma. Shared simply, purpose pulls peace. When you are dedicated in what you do, your purpose is solid, you will find that your mind becomes more balanced and focused. Yoga rudasya tasyeva. The one who has directed their mind is now quiet. Shared simply, they have gone from samshaya, living by doubt, to nishchaya, which is living by determination. Think of this practically. If the intellect has an ideal or purpose, I use that word, then what happens is the mind naturally has less doubts or becomes quiet. The word samshaya means samchaya. Tell me in English what chaya means. Chaya means shade, correct? So samshaya, very shady. That's how my mind is. But with dedicated living, nischaya, I live very clearly. I've shared with all of you, clarity facilitates conviction and confidence. When you make a decision, you have no right to not follow that decision. That is a dangerous way to live. I challenged all of you in class last night. Whatever sankalpa you have for your boo, no vikalpa. That will harm you and so harm our environment. Shamaha karanam uchyate. When the mind becomes quiet, what's next? Contemplation or dhyana. To establish yourself, not in quietude, but in silence. Once you are established in silence, it doesn't matter how noisy your context is, you will never be noisy. It is cutting out the cancer that I'd earlier described. Giving you an experiential gauge of when one is ready for dhyana. When I was in the Vedanta course, our days were 18 hours. Reading, writing, reflecting for 18 hours, from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. We did this for 18 months before we studied this chapter. 18-hour days for 18 months before we began Bhagavad Gita's chapter 6. Now, some of you who have been in Meaningful Mornings since the beginning, this is day 610. So exactly the same, correct? This is 18 minutes, not 18 hours. You know that, yes? For those in this year, 50 days. For those in this week, 4 days. So you've been around for 4 days and now you're practicing dhyana. We continue. Verse 4. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karmasvanushajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudastadocchate. More gauges of when you are ready for dhyana. Yada, when, he, indeed, na indriyartheshu. You are ready for dhyana when you are not living for sense objects. Indriyartheshu, what is meaningful to the senses. Is that you? By a show of hands, how many of you are qualified for that? More of you should have your hands up. The one who is enjoying, then they do not need to enjoy. I had shared in contemplation, your senses have to be disengaged. I'm going to read to you a powerful section of Pujya Swami Chinmayananda's commentary in regards to enjoying versus enjoying. The sense organs can run into the channels of the sense objects only when the mind is flowing out to these organs. If the mind is kept engaged in the contemplation of a greater truth, providing for itself there in the inner bosom a larger quota of an ample joy, it will no more go hunting for bits of joys in the gutters of sensuality. A well-fed pet dog will not scrounge the public dustbins for its feet. Awesome analogies that are being shared here. In a very rememberable way, if your heart is full, that will help your stomach to be full. Na karmasu anushajjate. How else do you know you are ready for contemplation? Is that you are not attached to actions. That includes both the results from actions and the actions itself. For some of us, we can't understand and appreciate dhyana because we're attached to doing. Contemplation is do nothing, but we can't because we're attached to doing. Why is this? The insight behind this attachment is we think we can create joy. The ego makes us feel separate. As soon as there's a trace of separation, we feel small. Obviously, my nature is infinite. If I'm separate from that, any feeling is going to be a feeling of smallness. And then how do I go about living? I live in separation and smallness. It's called swartha. All I do for me, for mine. Which is why chapters 3, 4, 5 all focused on karma. Karma yoga, jnana karma sannyasa yoga, karma sannyasa yoga, to weaken this sense of separation. When I don't feel separate, I don't feel small, I'm not dependent on results and actions. What is awesome about this second quarter, and really the last 3 chapters, Shri Krishna is not dealing with the symptom, he's dealing with the source, which is ego. Third quarter, Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. These are gauges of what is needed to contemplate. Sannyasi, to let go of. Sarva, all. Sankalpa, thoughts. Thoughts to create joy, but here sankalpa is not even qualified. It is just thoughts. Thinking of this practically, if your mind is very quiet right now, and there's a lovely sound that you're hearing or a lovely smell that you're smelling, that sound and smell is not lovely because your mind is not there, correct? The thoughts are not flowing through the sense organs. The same goes for actions. Our attachment to actions is because we have this thought that actions will complete us. But if you don't have that thought, you're simply acting, the body is moving. What I'm trying to emphasize here is we have to let go of, renounce projections. We project completion onto the sense objects, onto the actions. The one who's living by yoga, they project less. How so? They reflect more. Those are antonyms. If you're reflecting, you are not projecting. If you're projecting, you are not reflecting. What are ways that we can further reduce projection? Be an active listener. The more actively you listen, there's a reflection on you and whoever you are listening to. Another gauge of if you're practicing this, you will live less by wants and more by needs. Those who are very projection oriented, they live by their wants. Those who are very reflection oriented live by their needs. They're finding completion in their inner world. They don't need the outer world as much. Finally, yoga arudaha tada uchyate. Those who have checked off 1, 2, and 3, yada, tada, then it is said that they have directed the mind, mounted this animal, completed yoga, so they can practice dhyana. All can practice dhyana, but will one be effective at dhyana? It's quite different. The last verse of the last chapter, Shri Krishna uses the words tapa and yajna. Tapa means to save. Yajna means to serve. That is another way of sharing what contemplation is. Disidentifying from what you are not and identifying with what you are. But if one is not disidentified, there's no identification to change. And this comes out most clearly in the next verse. The next verse is known as the Sarva Sangraha, the verse that every teacher and student agrees upon in Bhagavad Gita. We will explore this tomorrow. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Oh. 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 If you wandered around your living space and looked carefully on all of the surfaces that are flat and are downward, a window ledge, the floor, decorations, you will find dust. What is dust made of? Quite a bit of the cells of this body. This body is perpetually shedding. Shedding hair, shedding skin. What else are we perpetually shedding? Thoughts. What were you thinking about 37 minutes ago? What are you going to be thinking about 26 days from now. Skin cells are gross matter. Thoughts are subtle matter. Both are matter. Your lifestyle choice is not to collect the hair and skin you find on the surfaces of your living space. Because this is matter, then why is it that we collect thoughts? This is also matter. One is stula, one is sukshma. It is the same difference between ice and water. For all who are mature in their education, ice and water are the same. A child would ask, what is ice made of? We collect thoughts by remembering the mistakes others have made towards us. Regrets of the past. We collect thoughts by imagining the hardships that will happen tomorrow. Anxiety of the future. As long as you are thinking, you cannot sleep. Regrets stop me from sleeping. Anxiety stops me from sleeping. Collecting thoughts doesn't allow us to live, leave alone, allow us to contemplate. Living yoga in every experience matures one to not collect thoughts. Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. All thoughts are disidentified from. Yoga arudaha tada uchyate. This evolution is the completion of yoga. Then what? Contemplate. Change your identification from the thoughts to how you know thoughts. I can see a sock, a desk, condensation because of light. Without light, if this room was in complete darkness, I would not be able to see these. Thoughts are prakriti, matter, intrinsically inert. Yet, we know the thoughts of, I am hungry. I'm looking forward to meeting this person. This knowing implies a imperceivable light, that which is beyond the senses and body. The knowing in the Upanishad is described as jnanam. The more direct implication, chit, or awareness. When the mind is completely quiet, change your identification from these thoughts, which you did through your lifestyle, to awareness. Shanti. Shanti. Shanti.